women need to have the same opportunities to shape digital technologies.
I am turning to all women active and interested in digitalization.
And position young women and girls as not only consumers but also producers within the digital sector.
The industry is ready to embrace us all, and when we get into the industry, we will shape our own future.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Women Leading Digital. I'm your host, Jocelyn Rita, and today I have the honor to speak with Angela Minayo. It's so interesting how just one step of defining the problem so clearly and pinning down what we all agree on when it comes to online gender-based violence can do for all actors in the ecosystem. Angela has a background in law and previously worked as a program officer for the digital rights of women with KICTANet. KICTANet is a network in Kenya, bringing together stakeholders in the information, communication, and technology sector, from politics, civil society, business, and the media. Hi, Angela. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn.
So today we talk about online gender-based violence. How, Angela, did you initially hear about it? Did you know anyone who has experienced it? Or how did you get in touch with gender-based violence online in the first place?
I think it's from me being very vocal online. I was a very vocal feminist. I spoke my mind, and that attracted a lot of hate as well as admiration. So I think it's important to also show that online experience is not exactly just full of hate. It's just that hate can form part of a woman's experience online. And realizing that the way the attacks were being done, it was not based on the content of the posts or the information. It was based on my identity as a woman and what that identity carries with the attributes and the expectations society had of me because I'm a woman.
Okay, and why are women and the LGBTQI plus community more often affected than men? Maybe you could shed some light on this.
I think it's because what we see online is a replication of what is offline. So if we have misogynistic narratives offline, we will see that being replicated online. And the only difference is that online there's a wider audience. There are more people viewing your ridicule, your abuse. There's just a bigger audience. So really it's a replication of how people feel.
Maybe you could just give a little bit of an explanation and describe what online gender-based violence looks like and what people should look out for when they are in online spaces.
What we know so far is that it can take a variety of forms. It can be trolling, which is a sustained smear campaign against the women or the gender minorities online. It can look like doxing. So when I say doxing, I mean sharing very intimate information about the victim online. So your personal home address, your phone number, your place of work, your employer, such very personal information being shared online with the aim of abusing the victim or giving other abusers a leeway of how to further abuse the victim offline. There's this thing we keep saying that online gender-based violence can start offline and go online, or it can start online and go offline. So really it's a spectrum. We also have gendered hate speech. So this will be posts or content calling for violence against a woman or a gender minority. As we all know, hate speech is really hatred, advocating for hatred, and not just hatred, but a further step for violence or attacks against the victim. We're going to see a lot of use of emerging technologies such as generative AI to come up with more derogatory content against women. We saw this with Taylor Swift, when generative AI was used to create very vile and very harmful content about her, content showing her in very bad light. So generative AI is giving users a chance to create content in their wildest fantasies. And sometimes these fantasies just happens to be misogynistic views about women.
What are a few of the consequences of online gender-based violence? And also, how does this deter people from taking part in online discourse?
What we see online is that when someone has a platform to speak, they can also share ideas that are very dangerous. You can see the echo chambers created by the manosphere, the likes of Andrew Tate, and in Kenya we have someone known as Amerix. These people have a platform, and when they keep sharing the same messaging, they might also recruit other people to start thinking like them, to have a very misogynistic views about women. I will also say that the social media platforms' business models, in a way, contribute to this because they prioritize content that is viral. And sometimes this viral content is misogynistic content, it is abusive content, it is content that is abusing women and gender minorities online.
So now let's jump to your experience in developing the Digital Enquirer Kit. From what I understand, it's a bit like a tool to help people understand and protect themselves from gender-based violence and misinformation online. How would you describe it?
I'd describe the tool as a very interactive, very simple module on what is online gender-based violence. When we were developing it, we were very intentional to also make it as inclusive as possible from a persons with disability point of view, some of the characters, to having a geographical inclusivity to it. So having names of characters that has been borrowed from Africa, from the Caribbean, from Europe. So we wanted to create a tool that is very global, that people can resonate with it.
I understand your experience and your history behind online gender-based violence, but maybe you could talk a little bit more about taking that step in why you chose to create the tool in the first place.
For me, it's a very radical point in my feminist journey to truly envisage an equal world. It's really unfortunate that men and women don't have the same experience online. And that means that women are always distracted with how to be safe, with how to present in a way that does not attract hate, how to say the right things so that they don't get attacked online. Men don't have this problem. A majority of men don't have this problem. So really, it was from a point of how can we raise awareness about this? And in raising awareness, make the female experience or the experience of women and gender minorities online a bit better. So it was about creating a tool that can do that job quite effectively, making it as engaging, as interactive, as inclusive as possible for people to understand the problem and have concrete solutions for this problem. That is the theory of change, that if we empower women, minorities, and everyone to understand what the problem is and what the solutions are, then we multiply the number of allies we have online who understand the problem, who can see the manifestation of the problem, report the post, support the victim. These are very concrete solutions to online gender-based violence that make the world and the internet a bit safer for women and minorities.
Interesting. And what has been the feedback so far from users of the Digital Enquirer Kit?
The feedback was very good. I found that people in the grassroots or in the rural areas liked it because they were able to access it on mobile phones. So the user interface is quite friendly, both on mobile phone and on computers. The other thing is that they liked the fact that with this resource, they can replicate trainings or run programs without necessarily having to incur the cost of developing a module all over again. So it's an open source tool. They can use it freely. It's available both on mobile and on computer. The other feedback we got was that we need to have this in persons with disability friendly formats. So Braille could be a good example. There is a myth that everyone coming on the internet is able-bodied. This is really, truly a myth. Not everyone coming online is able-bodied. We have persons with disabilities coming on the internet. So it's important to have formats, both digital formats and analog formats that are accessible to them. Finally, it's just about language. While it's available in English and other global languages, we have our own languages like in our own vernacular languages. And this is a big ask. And I told them that this was a big ask given the project scope at the time. But it's something that I really started thinking about.
What would you say are some of the low-hanging fruits that other advocates or people wanting to get into this space can engage on in preventing online gender-based violence?
I think the first and obvious low-hanging fruit is just raising awareness. You'd be surprised how many people even know what online gender-based violence is, let alone the forms and manifestations. So awareness raising is always a low-hanging fruit. The other one is stakeholder engagement. So convening stakeholders from different groups. So you can have tech companies, governments, civil society, activists, human rights defenders, convening them and talking about online gender-based violence, so stakeholder engagement. The third is advocacy. There's a lot of room for advocating for more accountability from tech companies, more action from governments in terms of protecting women and girls online, asking governments to do a bit more than just saying that we have this law in place. What could be the next step? Could you have regulations that concretely deal with online gender-based violence, asking for capacity building of law enforcement agencies, both police officers and the judiciary, on tackling and handling online gender-based violence cases. So I would say those three are quite low-hanging fruits for now.
Okay, interesting. I think this is such a big topic and it's only going to get bigger as we start to encounter more and more of social media presence in our day-to-day lives. But maybe you could pose some advice that you would give for women who are wanting to get more involved with digital rights, whether in Kenya or in other regions.
I would say they should look out for fellowships and internships opportunities. The interesting thing about the digital space is that these are so many. I started with the Google Digital Policy Fellowship. At the time, it was being done at Article 19 Eastern Africa. We have other fellowships. I know of the Open Tech Fund Fellowship. There's the Mozilla Foundation Fellowship. There's the Internet Society Fellowships. Also, there's some organizations offering schools on internet governance. So there's the Kenya School of Internet Governance. We have the African School of Internet Governance, which I attended in 2017. From a legal perspective, you can also look out for moot court competitions or journals calling for papers on these topics. So there's quite a lot of room to learn in form of fellowships and internship opportunities. I would also say to really just take the approach of how the internet evolved in a very permissionless way, in a very open way. You can start your own website, you can start your own podcast, talk about the things that matter to you, analyze the trends, speak about the trends, react, for instance, talk about if social media platforms are accountable to their users. It could be on LinkedIn, it could be on Twitter. So that really the opportunities and platforms to talk about digital rights are very wide. Last month, I was in Ghana for the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum. We had so many sessions, people just talking about digital rights from different perspectives. It could be from an internet fragmentation point of view. It could be from an online gender-based violence point of view, telecommunications policy, digital cooperation or international cooperation on cybersecurity, and things like that. So this is a very exciting space. I like to talk about this space because of how open it is, how welcoming it is, because the opportunities are endless.
Great. Thank you so much, Angela. This has been really insightful. I really appreciate all your answers and all the information that you've given to our listeners. We wish you all the best with the Digital Enquirer Kit.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for having me.
Women Leading Digital is brought to you by GIZ, and it's produced by Bear Radio. I'm Jocelyn Reader. Follow GIZ for more information, news, and stories on digital transformation and gender at www.bmz-digital.global. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.